Wondering how your Amazon ad results are doing compared to other sellers? Are you curious about the latest trends for Amazon sponsored product ads? Today, we're going to dive deep into the data. We're going to go back from 2018 to current time to show you what's been trending over the last couple of years. We'll look at ACOS, ROAS, conversion rate, click-through rate percentage, and a few other key metrics that you need to know in order to be a better advertiser. So stay tuned. If you're new here, my name is Mike Zagari. I am the creator of PPC Entourage. We are a software to help you scale your Amazon advertising. Plus, we provide results-driven management. If you are not subscribed to our channel, make sure you do so because every single week we take all the knowledge we've gained from managing millions of dollars in ad spend and pour it into these videos to help you grow your business. So subscribe today, click on the notification bell, and let's get started. All right, so before we get started, there are three things that I wanted to point out. First off, we're looking at just sponsored products data only. We will do sponsored brands and sponsored display at another time, but for this video, it's just sponsored product ads. Also, we're looking at the USA marketplace only, and we're looking also at about 1,400 different accounts. So keep that in mind as we dive into the data, and let's dive in. All right, so the first thing that we're looking at is the ACOS. Take a look at the ACOS year over year. You can see that 2018, 2019, and 2020 are here. Surprisingly, the ACOS has been going lower in recent months, and you can see that the very beginning of 2021, the ACOS is where it left off near the end of 2020. So thankfully, there's been a nice dip in ACOS, and as we go through this presentation, you'll likely understand as to why there has been a dip in ACOS. So next, we're at ad spend per 1,000 impressions. So this is the amount of money it takes to get 1,000 impressions on Amazon. And what's really cool is later on in the presentation, I'll break it down by match type and by placement. But you can see here that the cost to get 1,000 impressions on Amazon has been lower over the last year. And you can see that in 2019, it was at its highest level. And then in 2020, there was a dip. Now you can see at certain parts of 2020, there was a rise in the amount of ad spend it cost to get that 1,000 impressions. I remember this is when they removed some of the product targeting ads locations that were available on the product detail pages. And then all of a sudden impressions fell off the face of the earth. So that was this rise over here where it became more expensive to get 1,000 impressions. And then it kind of leveled off. And now you can see it's at its all-time low in terms of ad spend per 1,000 impressions. Next, we have ad spend per order. Now this is the amount that you have to spend in order to get an order through sponsored product ads in the USA marketplace. And this is really cool because this has dipped to a low as well in 2020. And as you can see, that low has continued throughout the beginning of 2021. And we're sitting right around $7 per order, generally speaking, across all of these accounts. So next, let's dive into conversion rate. And obviously we want this number to be as high as possible. You can see that this bottom line over here represents 2018, which is when the conversion rate across our accounts were at its lowest point, and it's been improving over the last couple of years, but pretty much staying steady at around 12%. You can see that there is a spike towards the holiday season as shoppers are more likely to convert during that time period, but generally speaking, we're sticking at around 12%. Now, you'll see that in terms of match type and placements, there is a big difference in conversion rate, and we'll dive into that later on in the video. So next, we have the average cost per click, and the red line represents the year of 2020, and you can see that the cost per click has been trending downwards, and towards the end of 2020, we were averaging around 80 cents per click, and that trend has also continued into 2021, where we're a little bit over 80 cents per click, which is really good because that is down from 2019 and 2018. You could see the yellow line represents 2019, where we're all the way near $1.20 per click. So there has been a decline in the average cost per click with sponsored product ads across our user base. All right, so next we have click-through rate, which is the amount of people who actually see your ad that actually click on your ad. So obviously we want this number to be higher. It means that we're serving more relevant ads and that shoppers are more likely interested in our product and purchasing our product. So you can see here that in 2020, which is represented by the red line, there was a dramatic spike in click-through rate percentage, and that corresponds with when Amazon reduced the product detail page, sponsored product ads, and there were more ads on the homepage or only ads on the homepage. So the click-through rate actually spiked at that point, but then it's been pretty level ever since. But you can see that more recently, there's been a trend in the better direction, and click click-through rate has actually been above 0.4, and it's right over here for 2021. So generally speaking, in 2021, the click-through rate is the highest that it's been in quite a long time. So that is a good thing for Amazon advertisers. All right, so next we have a really cool metric, revenue per click. So this is the amount of revenue generated every time somebody clicks on your ad. And obviously we want this number to be as high as possible. And you can see that towards the end of 2020, it definitely started to trend in the upwards direction. More towards the holiday season, you can see that it's been trending a little bit higher. Towards the end of 2020, we got to, generally speaking, around $4 on average per click. And that trend has been even better in 2021. Look how much higher the revenue per click is in 2021 when compared to 2019. It is way down over here. So it's really good knowing that every click you get in your ad, generally speaking, it is generating more revenue in your business. All right, so next we have return on ad spend. And you can see here that this goes along with the last chart that I showed you. And there's a general trend upwards in 2020. And that trend so far has stuck with us in 2021. So generally speaking, the ROAS has been much higher in 2021 as compared to 2018 and 2019. All right, so now let's dive into the trends over the last 7 months so we can see how Amazon advertising is doing more recently. Here we have the ACOS trends, and you can see generally speaking, there was a spike in ACOS in around the September area, and then we dipped down towards the holiday season, and more recently, we've been very stable at around 24-25% ACOS across all of these accounts. Next, we have ad spend per 1,000 impressions, and you can see there's a general trend in the upward direction. You can see that it's getting a little bit more expensive to get those impressions on Amazon, but overall, it's still around the $4.50 mark to get 1,000 impressions with Amazon advertising. Next, we have ad spend per order, and this looks very much like the ACOS chart. You can see that there was a general trend upwards towards September, and then it dipped down, and now it's been stable at around $7 in order to get a sale on Amazon. Next, let's take a look at conversion percentage, and you can see that it was fairly stable early in 2020, and then it took a dip a little bit before the holiday season, before it ramped right back up to a peak at around 16%, and then after the holiday season, once again, it took a dip, and now it's been fairly steady at around that 12.5%. Although more recently, there's been a dip in the month of February. All right, so here's a look at the average cost per click, and you can see that it's been fairly steady throughout the year. We're averaging at around 90 cents, and there has been some peaks above $1 and some valleys below 80 cents, but overall, it's been fairly steady throughout the year. Next, we have the click-through rate, which is trending in the upwards direction. More recently, it's been above 0.4, which is really great for advertisers. It means we're serving much more relevant ads, and Amazon's likely doing a better job at showing our ads to the right shoppers, which is really good. Finally, we have revenue per click, and you can see that the revenue per click has been generally trending up, and more recently we're at around $4 in revenue per click across our user base. All right, so now let's look into the performance based on match type. So you can see here that we're looking at the 3 different match types and the ACOS performance, and generally speaking, they're fairly aligned, and when one goes up, the other one's been going up, and they've been trending together. So overall, the ACOS there really hasn't been too much of a difference across the board, and they tend to run together. Next, we have ad spend per 1,000 impressions broken down by match type. And obviously the exact match is going to be more expensive because we're just targeting that one exact keyword. So it's going to be more expensive to get that 1,000 impressions, followed by phrase match and followed by broad match, which is coming in at just over $2 per 1,000 impressions on Amazon. Next, we have conversion percentage. So generally speaking, exact match is likely going to be a highly relevant target. So the conversion percentage tends to be a little bit higher in exact match type, and that shows right over here. We're hovering at around 15% for exact match type, and then lower for phrase, and then broad match comes in at around just over 10%. All right, next we have the average cost per click, and you can see that the average cost per click in general for exact match is much higher than broad match, about 40 to 45% higher, generally speaking, with phrase match being somewhere in the middle. Next, we have click-through rate percentage, and this one to me is fairly obvious. The exact match type has a higher click-through rate percentage than the broad, because broad is going after a wider scope of more broadly related keywords, so we would expect to have a lower click-through rate. And finally, we've broken down the amount of revenue per click based on match type, and you can see there's a really big difference between exact match and broad match. So generally speaking, broad match brings in the lowest, just above $3 on average, and then the revenue per click in exact match is just below $5 on average. All right, so now let's look at performance based on placement. And you can see that the top of search, which is represented by the blue line, has a much lower ACOS as compared to rest of search and product detail page. And they do trend together, but top of search has always been much lower. Next, we have ad spend per 1,000 impressions. Check this out. Top of search is much more expensive to get those 1,000 impressions, nearly $45 to get that many impressions. But when you do get those impressions, they produce, and then it's followed by rest of search and product detail page. And then we also have remarketing. Take a look at the ad spend per order, and you can see that the top of search requires the least amount of ad spend in order to generate a sale, hovering in around $6. Take a look at conversion percentage based on placement. You can see that the top of search has the highest conversion percentage, and the lowest conversion percentage is remarketing. And this is when we're targeting shoppers off of Amazon and trying to bring them back. Here's a look at the average cost per click broken down by placement. You can see that the top of search placement has the highest average cost per click, followed by remarketing, which is very low at around 40 cents, generally speaking, per click to get somebody back to Amazon. So here's the amount of revenue generated per click. And you can see that the highest is top of search at nearly $5 of revenue generated every single time you get a click. And the lowest is remarketing at less than $1 revenue generated per click. And then finally, we have ROAS, which as you can see is much higher in top of search as compared to the other placements. So how are your ads performing compared to the metrics shown in this video? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you're looking to absolutely eliminate painful spreadsheets, head on over to PPC Entourage to see how we can help you improve your Amazon advertising. Also, the video above is a video about day parting, and the video below is a video that YouTube thinks you will like. I'll see you all next week.